Hello, this is Joe Jackson, interviewer. It's said that people prefer podcasts to last less than a half hour, a lot less. So what you're about to hear is roughly half of a radio programme I presented in a series called The Joe Jackson Tapes Revisited. The full show, minus music, which for copyright reasons I can't include in this podcast, and the complete unedited master tapes of the interview are available elsewhere on my website. And speaking of copyright, this recording must not be broadcast, sold, redistributed, edited or otherwise used without my permission in writing. It is for personal use only. But enjoy. Hi, welcome to this edition of the Joe Jackson Tapes Revisited, a series that's based on 30 years of interviews I did freelancing for publications such as the Irish Times, Sunday Independent and Hot Press, and for RTÉ Radio 1. Why do I say all this in advance of tonight's show about Dolores and Riordan? Simply to highlight the fact that many of these tapes were made for the print media, and whereas background noises such as hotel music and noisy people usually had to be endured on the day, as with the first of my two interviews with Dolores, they can be a right pain in the ear when it comes to broadcasts. That said, I've done my damnedest to digitally minimise such sounds, and besides, I'm sure that fans of Dolores, who died prematurely, aged only 46 in 2017, won't mind, and would love to hear again the woman when she was so young, so happy, and so full of life, with only hints of the shadows she hid to a degree, and that in time would engulf her. Our first interview took place in 1993 when she was only 22. But for those who don't know the story of how she joined the Cranberries, here's a brief bio. The band was formed in 1989 by Mike and Noel Hogan and Fergal Lawler, and its lead singer was originally Niall Quinn. When he left in 1990, they took out an ad looking for a female singer. Dolores, who'd once defiantly declared to a teacher in school, "I want to join a rock band and make records," arrived, auditioned, wrote melodies and lyrics to existing demos, and later was hired. Their breakthrough came via the single Dreams and the album Everybody Else Is Doing It, Why Can't We? Before this interview, I'd never met Dolores, but I warmed to her right away, particularly when, at the start, I noticed that from her vantage point at the other side of our table in Dublin's Central Hotel, she was trying to read the typed set of questions in my hand. Is there anything in that kind of about the kind of Dublin media originally ignoring you? Can you read upside down?
Yeah. I was a good clogger in school.
You were?
I was.
That's sideways.
No, the teacher is there in front of your desk.
And you're in.
You know, that kind of thing.
Okay, so what about that kind of the Dublin... Did you feel that the Dublin media originally ignored you? And do you have any ill feelings about that?
I don't feel it, I know.
That it's too clannish.
I know that they ignored us.
All right.
And I know that they have a problem identifying anything outside of Dublin.
Right.
And it is... I wouldn't say clannish, I would say small-minded.
All right. This isn't just in relation to music. You know, I've heard the same argument
really,
from...
arts and everything.
Yeah, all the arts.
Because I am... My boyfriend that I used to live with before, he was a painter, and his friend was a sculptor, and like I knew lots of people who went to the art college and went on, came out with their diplomas or whatever they do and started working. And he found it very hard to be recognised outside of Limerick. They'd come to Dublin and put exhibitions up here. Same thing, you know. Because Dublin is the capital, as we all know, and I think half the population in Dublin, and the media is in Dublin.
Well, that's the strongest fact. That's one of the strongest factors.
So Dublin has got the media on its side, and the media is it's like what pumps things into people's heads. You know, it's how you see something or hear something is through the media, really.
But do you feel good about the fact that the focus is shifting, even in we have to limit
I feel very good, not just for myself though. I mean, because I'm fine now. I mean, I always knew that the Cranberries had a more international appeal than an Irish rock and roll Dublin. Hello, we're going to play here in this blah venue in Dublin, and we're going to stay playing here for 20 years, you know. I knew that it wasn't like that with the Cranberries, and I knew that that's why a lot of people had difficulty in seeing our appeal, you know. A lot of journalists dismissed us as a second blah with a female front.
But were they saying that? Because I didn't see any of the kind of...
a few journalists would just dismiss us. There was one in particular, I'm not using any names, and he dismissed us as being a second band, right, that were before three guys and a girl. I met him and I said to him, did you ever see us play live? He was there, no. Did you listen to our album? No. Why did you say that? Because you're a girl, you have a girl's voice and there's three boys. And basically you weren't from Dublin, so we weren't really going to give you the time of day, you know.
I know that some cynical souls may wonder if a Dublin journalist actually said to Dolores, "You weren't from Dublin, so we weren't going to give you the time of day." But I believed her, and I should know. I've always operated out of Dublin as a journalist, specifically the city, and I could be said to be part of the Dublin media. In fact, at the time of this interview, I had what some described, often jealously, a relatively unparalleled tripartite position as a music journalist, in that I did, as with this one, many cover story interviews for Hot Press, 3 out of every 4 weekly music interviews in the Irish Times, and I covered pop music on the Art Show on RTE Radio 1. That said, as you may have detected from my questions there, I detested the Dublin bias in the media. I also happen to love Limerick, where my great-grandfather came from, and I'd once written for Hot Press, while located in Limerick, a 4-page article in an attempt to help undo its image as Stab City. Hence this question for Dolores.
How important do you think it is for somewhere like Limerick specifically? Because I saw there in the paper, the day you got the awards, that report was on page 2, and on another page you had another report of a stabbing in Limerick, and there's this image of the place as just not the place to be. Do you think it helps Limerick? It helps young people there to aim for something else?
Definitely for artists in all different ways, be it visual or musical or acting or whatever. Hopefully it might broaden their perspective as regards internationally. It might make them see that, just because you're from a little small town.
Okay.
Look, Elvis Presley came from the arsehole of nowhere, really. You know what I mean? And he's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He still is, he'll always be.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter where you come from, it's fully inside of your soul.
But it's more of an achievement, though, isn't it? When you come from... that's what Sam Phillips said about Elvis, that he gave a voice to all those people who previously nobody had paid attention to, black or white.
Well, it's easier to be different because you don't have very many influences. You're just you. You're the only one, really.
Right.
You're the only cranberries in Limerick.
But Limerick is really celebrating it, isn't it? The Welcome Home gig and all that stuff. Does that feel good to you, or does it not?
It's nice, yeah. But you see, it's kind of strange with me because I lived in Limerick for a while and in the city. I lived there. I moved in there when I was 18 when I joined the band, and then I spent most of this year away on the road. And now I've come back, and it's kind of different because all my friends are gone in a way. They're still there, but it's very hard to relate to them. And I noticed that when you travel more and more, you make more friends, people that know you from the road, and they know what you're going through, and they know what's happening to your head now.
Okay.
But you go back to your friends, and they're talking about exams and talking about, look at him, isn't he lovely looking? And you're there kind of going, yeah, look at about 1,000 lads, and I come up and they're going like, so I don't want to look at lads,
Does it then creates a distance between even close old friends? Do you feel more isolated from
all your friends, really.
Do you really, though?
The only friends that you really keep are the ones that are kind of with you psychologically, the ones that are with you and with you growing, and that are my girlfriend that I've been with since 4 years old. She's on the road with us.
All right,
she does merchandise. She works for a merchandising company. So she sees what I go through. She walks around with me and she sees me getting mobbed, and she realises what I'm going through, and that makes our relationship really
even
good,
closer.
Yeah, but other people don't know, and they say, God, isn't it great?
It must be great.
All you did was sang, and you're famous. And you're kind of going, yeah, it is.
But would you not bother explaining that it's not just
that?
No,
I don't bother explaining. You just go, yeah, it's great, isn't it? And you just realise that that's it, that you're drifting away and you're moving away.
So when your friend empathises with what you're going through when you're being mobbed, what are you going through?
It's kind of annoying. It's great to go on stage and perform and all your fans to scream and stuff. Yeah. But after a gig, I'd be dying to go out to her and say, how's it going, Brett? And have a chat to her. I can't go anywhere, really.
Right. You mean mingle with the crowd after the gig?
Can't go near the crowd after the gig, no. Because 3 of them spot you and they can't believe that you're out there, and they start going, there she is. And they run over, shoving things in your face. Sign this, I love you. Can you hug me? Just one hug. And you're there. I'm wrecked, lads, after doing the gig, and I'm wrecked tired, and we've a journey, we have to travel overnight or whatever. But your fans don't know that, so they just they take everything out of you, and you're really tired.
So what do you do then? Stay backstage?
I stay backstage and wait till the hall's empty. When the hall's empty, sometimes I go out then. Or one of the things is sitting behind the barriers, and fans are all waving at you. That's good enough, wave at them,
From a distance?
Yeah, but when you go out and mingle with them, they do take, you don't have enough to give them.
Do you feel you are being emotionally torn inside from all that, from the demands they have on you?
No, not really.
What do you feel they're expecting from you?
I feel physically, I find it draining.
All right.
Everybody's asking you a question. You're surrounded by 10 people and they're all asking you a question. And you don't have to be rude, because you can see how much you mean to these people individually.
Yeah. That the tiniest comment could really help their lives.
Yeah.
If they
it's funny to a teenager maybe who was going through a really hard time.
Yeah. You
totally redeemed their head and made them feel great for some reason.
With a song.
And
then they expect you to follow on, though.
Yeah, and when they meet you, then they're practically on their knees and stuff, and some of them crying. And when people are like crying and really emotional, you don't want to say, go away, I'm tired. You can't say that, like, if you've any heart in you at all. Like.
Dolores and I then went on to talk about how, when she was growing up, her brothers loved the music of U2, but she herself didn't. She saw it as hard and aggressive and preferred what she called dreamy stuff, particularly Gregorian chant, which certainly calmed her mind and soul. When she first went to stay in a monastery, which Dolores did, she told me, in order to escape what she called the usual teenage pressures. But when I asked if it was true that she got her gig with the Cranberries because the band saw its music as feminine, quote unquote, and as such they wanted a female singer, Dolores said not really. But then she said, and here I have to quote her, until the music dips enough to let you hear her voice. The boys were 16, 17 at a time, and what was happening musically in Limerick was all heavy, blah, blah, blah. We are the boys, let's wreck the place and write silly lyrics. Such as, roll it there, Dolores.
It's like I strangled my friend yesterday and he puked and he choked on his vomit kind of lyrics, right? They were into that.
Right.
And of course, when, like,
poetry.
The lads didn't, they weren't thinking outside the Limerick at the time. They were just having a little laugh. But they did say that their music was softer than the other boys, so maybe it would be nice to have a female singer, they thought. But they weren't particularly pushed. And when I did go and hear them, there was a lot of space in the music.
Right.
And space
Area.
where I didn't have to compete.
Right.
It wasn't like, and they were the only band in Limerick at the time that were leaving lots of space in their music. All the other bands were into the heavy, over-the-top and noisy stuff.
But does that tie in then what you said earlier, you were listening to like dreamy music, dreamscape music?
Yeah, and the lads were, at the time, the lads used to write chord sequences and stuff, and the drummer, the way he played, it was really like open. It wasn't like constant bass drum vibe,
Right.
They're just all
floating figures.
Floaty kind of music, yeah.
But that's still the dominant mode when I listen to the album. It still has that sensibility, that softness.
Because that's what I used to write myself at the time. I used to write my own stuff, and the lads...
As in lyrics of poetry or what?
I used to write full songs and everything.
All right.
I mean, in the band, the music is written by me and the guitar player, and I do most of the music writing.
Right.
I write the lyrics and structures, so I'm the main writer, and then Noel's second. Most people in Ireland are getting that mixed up because just our first album was a bit messed up.
And they're saying what? That you write the words and they write
people
the music?
think I write the words. And
all right, okay. We can get that out of the way.
But we co-write the music and I write the lyrics.
At that point, I raised the subject of the financial exploitation of women in rock music. I told Dolores I'd recently interviewed for the Irish Times Sharon Nelson from Massive Attack, who'd rightly complained that her salary was not commensurate with her role as the lead singer in the band. But Dolores said this was not the case in terms of the Cranberries. On the contrary, she said she got more money than anyone in the band because she was its main composer.
No, I'm the biggest, I probably have the biggest income in the band because I'm the main writer. I do most of the writing. 3 of the tracks in the first album I wrote alone.
Right.
And then 9 of the tracks I co-wrote the music with Noel, and I do most of the music writing because I structure like, the melodies, the lyrics, and Noel comes up with guitar chords and I listen, and if they're nice we work with them, and maybe I would say maybe the fourth one, can you change that a bit into something like and we just work together. But as writers, I'm the main writer in the band musically, and I'm the lyric writer.
Right.
And we've all got a great understanding between us about that, and we all respect each other very well. And then the bass player and drummer don't actually write the music, but I don't tell the bass player to play a D or an F here, but like we have a chord and he's got his choice of what to play. So we also, we share with them, give them shares.
There's the creative
their creative input as well,
But who set up all these deals that they were so well structured for the band too? Was this all done for you by Ireland, by...
No, we did most of the stuff ourselves. We were fairly involved all the ways.
From the outset?
Yeah.
Aware of that?
Yeah. The thing is, the lads can't write a full song without me, but I can write full songs without the boys.
Right.
That's the difference.
Right, okay.
So the boys always know. There's no arguments. There's no... it's all just a really good mutual understanding.
Is there anybody pushing you to go solo?
Loads of people, yeah. Loads of people
thinking you're the one.
Yeah, lots of people encourage me to do that, but I don't want to.
How did the band feel about that? Yeah. Do they not feel a bit frightened, a bit threatened because if they lose you?
They don't, because we've got a great relationship going between the 4 of us, and nobody can come between us,
Sadly then, in this battle between Dolores and me and that damn background music, it won out. But later in the interview we talked about a defining feature of Irish music as far as Dolores was concerned, namely its spirituality. That year I myself had discovered Native American music, particularly its chanting. So had she, and we both noted the similarities between it and Irish music. Dolores said she'd always seen music in this universal setting.
And they'd be there, and they go, hey, and they go really soft again. And you're totally in trance, meditating.
Right. But isn't there a
Really
strong
brilliant.
parallel between that even and what some of the stuff on the album, the Arabic chanting or whatever? That's where the music all melts together,
Yeah.
not whether it's American, English or Irish.
Definitely, and as well as that, when I saw those Indians doing that kind of stuff, did you ever see the old fellas out in the Aran Islands
Yeah,
with the eyes
yeah,
closed
so-
doing
yeah,
the
yeah.
schneill, tail, no, written, and they're really intricate old Irish, but they're really with it there, do you know what I mean?
Right, so you'd see those musical links.
Oh, there's
Not-
loads all over the world.
yeah.
I think that the source actually came from one thing at the start, because I think a lot of Arabic music, Egyptian, African, all the trilly stuff,
All right,
does link
yeah.
with the really old Irish trilly
Right.
stuff,
So you do have a global view, and the band has that global view of music stretching back.
I always thought, I was always into the really old stuff where music began, and there was all I think that African, Egyptian music, right, and the Irish trad stuff, that in a
Right.
lot of ways it ties in. It sounds similar,
Okay.
but slightly different.
But you see, this to me is a very healthy thing, because I've had a lot of people say that one of the negative influences of U2 is that too many bands tried to follow this Anglo-American model of guitar-based four males doing a pretty aggressive music, dark aggressive music, which was maybe in ways Irish but also Anglo-American. And if they'd had a broader view of the world, they would have seen that's not where things are going to go.
Yeah.
And it looks to me like the Cranberries, or you in particular, have tapped into that and maybe just jumped over all the rest.
Yeah. See, I think our angle is totally different than U2 or Sinead or any of them musically. I don't think it, I know
Okay.
it. I know
Alright.
that we see a totally different thing,
As in the future and global and back to the history of music and all those
Yeah.
undercurrents.
Yeah, I think
Not
there's
fashion.
different things that I'm really into then. I couldn't imagine Bono sitting down listening to Egyptian music.
All right.
Next up, I just had to ask Dolores about what to me seemed to be a sexist comment she made during an interview with Stuart Clark for Hot Press. By the way, Belly is a band.
Remember your comment last year in Hot Press that all men suck? Was that a serious comment?
No, is that the one? That was
Yeah,
the one
that was
Tanya Donnelly.
Stuart.
No, we were just after coming off tour with Belly.
Right,
And
that's right,
when I
yeah.
was talking to Stuart, I was talking about Belly. And he said, did you get any tips from Tanya? And I said, yeah, the one tip she gave me, and this is Tanya down to the ground, because she thinks men are men and women are women. And there's
Yeah,
a
that's fine, Sean.
thing going on there,
Right.
And I said, well, Tanya, any advice for me? And she said, I just tell you, all men suck. That's my advice. So that's what I was saying, Tanya.
All right.
That was Tanya's advice. But no, I don't think that I love men.
Do you though?
Of course I do.
But there's a lot of anger in your songs, though. There are many songs about betrayal and hurt.
Well, I think that
and pain.
males have a problem with being open emotionally.
All right.
That there's, I think, machoism, I hate it, and there's an awful lot of it, An awful lot of men have this problem where they get with the boys and they find it hard to hold her hand and just say things that they normally say. Because it's easy for a woman to hold a baby, and it's easy for a woman to say, I love my little baby, and I love you to her husband in public. But it's kind of, for men, it's often, I think, it's harder, I mean, I'm working on the road with men, and all the men are together, and they're all big boys, and they're all, hey, look at that chick over there. And then you get the man, he's on the room, and you kind of go,
Oh, yeah, that's
you
a
start
different-
talking to him, and he's a total little lamb
Right,
underneath it,
Right. Do you find that, though?
Oh, completely. The biggest men are always the soft ones as well, which is really strange.
But how much of this do you think is influenced by rock? Male stereotypes in rock. There's an image of masculinity that rock and roll has. So
A
it's
load
just
of crap,
getting
really,
guitar.
though,
But isn't it?
It's terrible because I know, because I've met so many people now, and going out with this guy, and he's really into the big American hard rock, Black Sabbath, Metallica, Guns N' Roses, all that thing. But really, underneath it, all those guys have soft little hearts in them, and they're all just little babies. They're not gonna sit down and go, well, I cried last night, darling, because you were gone, as much as they're gonna go, oh, I'm a hard man, and
But aren't they having a bad influence on all the young male fans who think that's the way to be? And then are
because
to
it
say, you know what I
confuses
mean?
them,
It confuses them. And
definitely. That's why I'd never be angry with men at all, because I realise the pressure that men full stop are under.
Right.
That nah, you're a sissy type
Sure,
thing that begins
sure.
at school.
Yeah, yeah.
Goes up through music and through everything.
Through business, the whole
visual
lot.
art, through everything.
this is what we were talking about earlier, that music is getting more lyrical. There's a new sensibility reflected in music, and it's moving away from this black leather male cock rock. You know, the kind of thing that's dominated it since the beginning. Do you empathise with any of the Riot Girl groups? You know, the kind of radical militant feminists who are really have become as aggressive as the males they say they're trying to beat down?
Yeah, I don't know, because I was never into that feminist thing, you know. I'm not into that battle of the sexes. I just write songs because I want to. And if I was into women, I'd probably write the same. I grew up with 5 brothers, and you know, I always tried to understand men. They've always been a puzzle in my head. The whole thing, you know, why do they have to be so men-ish? And then over the years you discover more and more things, and of course I've branched off in my writing as well. I'm not writing just about that now. As you get older, you broaden your horizons. I mean, when you're 18, you're just going to write about your boyfriends and your broken heart and whatever.
Yeah. But you have written about that, about the betrayal and the pain.
Yeah, but I think that over the years I've discovered that there is a real honest, strong human side to the whole male race, and I've discovered that there are certain men that never grow up and overcome that thing. They stay stuck in the macho thing. Then there's men that just go above it, and they kind of go, yeah, it's kind of sad to be like that, isn't it?
Incidentally, earlier during that exchange, when Dolores described the guy she was seeing as being into heavy metal music, but seemingly a softy at heart, she probably was making her first public reference to Don, the man she'd only recently started dating and would later marry. But at this point, Dolores went on to tellingly suggest that perhaps her detestation of machoism, as she called it, could be traced back to the grief that was given to her by some guys in Limerick because she wasn't sexually active until she was 19.
I had a good laugh when I was young. I was into having a laugh. I mean, when I was 14, I wasn't really aware of... I wasn't sexually aware that much anyway. I didn't become into the whole sexual awareness thing until I was 19, really. I just kind of was into different things growing up. And for that reason, lots of guys sneered at me and gave me a hard time because, like, I wasn't. She's not, you know.
What, she doesn't go? She's not one of the girls? What?
Yeah. There was the type that kind of went out really young and started to become active, you know. But really in here, they weren't really ready, and they became mothers very young, and that was it, like. And then there were certain types of girls that didn't go out that much, and that, you know, did their own things. But then later on in life, you see the ones often that just waited become more rewarded at the end of the day.
Sure, but did you get flack for that from them? From the local guys?
Yeah, you would. Yeah, most girls do. Yeah. Because I have.
But how did you respond? Did you say "fuck you" up yours? I'm not interested, or did you feel intimidated?
It was kind of difficult, alright. I suppose maybe that's why I bore grudges against men.
You bore grudges?
Maybe that's why I was kind of angry. I was angry with that type of man.
As you can hear, that group of loudly speaking, maybe less than gentle gentlemen sat nearby and all but drowned out on tape the sound of Dolores and I, who were, as you also can hear, speaking somewhat softly. But an hour or so later, after the interview proper ended, we sat chatting for a further 15 minutes or so, despite the fact that Dolores had been told by her publicist, Lindsay Holmes, that they had to move on to another interview. At one point, after we discussed in depth the Cranberries' new album, No Need to Argue, I told her that the songs I loved best on it were those sonic dreamscapes with lyrics that were similarly vague in the best sense, meaning they were left open for listeners to drift around in, as it were, and in so doing explore echoes of their own lives. Dolores loved that, so I turned back on the tape recorder. And here I am off mic, simply because, in order to make sure I heard her voice above not only mine, but the surrounding din, I almost pushed the microphone into her mouth.
Now, you've just said in half a minute what I've been trying to say for the last hour, so...
yeah, but you're jetting on that now.
I'll go now.
Okay, I'll go.
Yeah.
Thanks for being
here. That is it. It's not like, I'm seeing, I don't have any big messages for the world. I'm not saying anything that hasn't been said a million times before. It's just my take on it, you know. So I like the illusion element of it. I like the thing of, is she really like that or isn't she? Because people say, I met you before and you were very like one way and then you're totally different. I don't know anymore like what you are, and that's fine by me. Because I keep myself to myself for that, I don't hang around in the scene or whatever musician thing in town. The most of myself I keep for myself, and a writer who's been a very big influence on me and I carry around all his works like all the time is Lewis Carroll. So I love his poetry and I love the whole Alice in Wonderland thing. Always fascinated me, and I just like the idea of using your imagination and getting out of this world completely. You know, I don't like being dragged back into it, being, you know, what do you feel about this and what happened to you and what are you involved in, who are you going out with and what are you doing. That, I'm away, like, I'm not here at all half the time. I'll be sitting here, you know, the whole imagination thing is constantly twinkling in my head. I can feel it, I can see it. And that's where I like to spend most of my time. It's the most